Overture, curtain lights. This is it, the night of nights.
And what high school hit?
Your book. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then discuss our memories and dig into those movies, albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad.
I'm Pete.
And I'm Giff.
Are you guys ready for the heights we're going to hit tonight?
I feel like I am.
Do you remember the Looney Tunes theme
there,
song?
But there's a reason you. Yeah. That's all I know.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about some cartoons, but the classic, best kind of cartoons, the kind they don't show anymore because they're too violent.
And holy hell, are they?
And they're not only that, but they're stereotypical, and they're based on all kinds of things that people don't talk about anymore. But that's what made them great at the time.
Sure.
Not that we encourage stereotypes and gun violence and all that sort of stuff. We're not doing that at all. But we are heartily encouraging.
If all the gun violence did was just blow your beak up and then you put it back on, I mean, it's really not that bad. So maybe we wouldn't.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, not so bad. So really, that was downplaying gun violence, which is maybe even worse.
Yeah,
possibly.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Probably teaching kids that it's fun to do that, right? And I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, you watched it, right? I mean, we watched it growing up. It's not like we're running around.
No, the stuff they watch now is worse anyway. Maybe it doesn't have stereotypes, but they've got just as much crap. Look at South Park, for God's sake. I mean, this is not anywhere near South Park. So we're talking about Looney Tunes tonight. So just a little under a year ago, we did a episode with some of our favorite people, Jim and Lindsay from the Children of the 80s, and we drafted the Saturday morning cartoon characters. And it was a big hit. We had a great time doing that. And in that episode, I said I could have just picked 5 Looney Tunes characters. And I kind of think I probably should have. I picked this episode for tonight because it's not even close. These are my favorite cartoons of all time, and nothing even comes close. I've been watching these since I was 5 or 6. And when we talked about the Saturday morning cartoons, I stretched into some others that I did like. But it was the only one I cared to watch. It was on from 10 to 11 on CBS, and that was what I needed to see. I never got into He-Man. I never got into Transformers like you guys. I just listened to you guys talk about them. I saw the toys, but I didn't care. I just wanted to watch Looney Tunes because that's what I liked. And then they are on a lot in the afternoons too. No,
Captain 11.
Yeah, so you could see them a lot of different times. I even remember there being some prime time ones. And correct me, I don't know if any of you remember this. I feel like there was a primetime one in the early 80s once where they advertised it as Wile E. Coyote was finally going to catch the Roadrunner. Does that sound familiar to either one of you?
Yeah, that does.
Vaguely, yeah.
And then, of course, he didn't. There was some twist. I don't remember what happened, but I remember that.
He catches oh my God. And then he gets away, right? Or something like that.
I got to see this. I got to see what happens. And it was a big deal. Last week, I picked Bugs Bunny's 1001 Rabbit Tales and Daffy Duck's Fantastic Island, these movies that they put out that were just basically compilations of all the great ones. So there were so many ways that you could watch it, and then I did watch it. But the big thing is they're genius. The writing of these cartoons is genius. They're so far above so many of the other kid cartoons you could watch. I mean, and they were shown in movie theaters back in the 40s and 50s. I mean, they're probably geared as much to adults as anybody, I'm guessing, back then.
Right.
But when you mix in the music, I mean, there's nothing like the classical music that you hear and the way it's used in so many of these cartoons, which we will talk about a couple of tonight. I mean, for a lot of us, this is really how we know a lot of these songs is because of the Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Yep.
My family, we had when I was a kid, and I don't know why we had just these, but I remember having, so every once in a while, you get out the film strip player. And you had a few film strips, maybe some home movies, from the past. They didn't have sound on them at that time. But we had some Tom and Jerry's, and we had a couple Speedy Gonzales ones. And I don't know why we would have just had Speedy Gonzales, but I know for sure that we watched Speedy Gonzales on a film player in our big living room, and that was just such a treat whenever you
With
got
no
to watch
sound.
that. Well, those maybe had sounds. The whole movie
Oh,
didn't
okay.
have sound.
Okay.
I mean, it was, yeah. But
Okay.
when you recorded your home movies, they were usually quiet.
Yep.
Like with Clark in the attic, there's no sound on
Yep.
those.
And I had an uncle that had those, and I'd love to see all those. But come in with the huge light on, blinding you, and yeah.
So the cast of characters, which we are going to draft tonight, you won't want to miss that, is so deep. It's so memorable. It's just amazing the amount of characters they came up with. And some of these characters are almost like clones of each other, but each one is different in its own way. And it's like, you don't get sick of them. It was such a great show to watch in the 80s because it wasn't hard to find. It was on everywhere. I do own, in the early 2000s, they came out with a golden collection on DVDs, and I have every one of those. But they're really hard to find now. So doing this was really hard to pick because they're on HBO, but like hardly any of them are on there. None of the good ones are on HBO because they're all off because of music.
Right.
But
I did watch a fair amount off of HBO too, just kind of.
Did you find? I didn't even really, because it was so hard to know what season they're from, so I didn't even bother.
Right.
Yeah.
Looking. But so even if you go on YouTube, a lot of them aren't there, or you have to watch them in like 3 parts where they're like broken into 3 parts. So it's really hard now, but we found a way to do it. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And I love it. And that's why I picked it. And part of it too, we'll get into memories of each cartoon as we go through. But like, I have memories of these cartoons with my friends, and really specifically you, Gifford, a couple of these that we used to quote and talk about all the time.
Thanks.
And well, just the way it was. We had other things that we talked about too, but
thanks for the invite to the Looney Tunes party that you guys must have had.
It's usually on Halloween.
Yeah,
I go over to Brad's.
I thought you were trick-or-treating.
So, Pete, since I just shit on you, why don't you go next? Why do you love the Looney Tunes? What are the memories you have overall? When did you watch them?
I just remember I watched them whenever I possibly could, namely Saturday mornings. I remember them always being on Saturday mornings and in the afternoons. It just sets the gold standard for any cartoon that's ever come since that. I mean, there's just no comparison. The only thing that you can say is close is Disney, but the Disney cartoons are not near as good and not near as funny. But I did watch a lot of those cartoons as well because it was just cartoons, but they were not even close to funny. They were too sanitized, in my opinion. They wouldn't have.
That's the only competition at that time. And
right,
maybe they were groundbreaking in their own way too, but yeah, who wants to? You're not going to go back and watch many of those. And if you do, it's more probably like learn something about cartooning than it is about actually laughing and having a good time.
Right, cartoon history. There's a lot of history there, of course, and watching with my kids and stuff. But my kids never really got into Looney Tunes, as you said, because they're just so hard to find and just sit and watch like we did. But yeah, any time Looney Tunes was on, I remember my brother loved them. And so he would have it on, and that was just like kind of one thing because there wasn't like a lot of TV that would watch together. He was 8 years older than me, but just how I always looked forward to Wile E. Coyote. That was always my favorite. It's the simplest in terms of the plot, but it was just my favorite one because obviously there's no dialogue. But yeah, I just remember a lot of great memories of sitting in front of the TV, and that's what I would look for first.
Did you like the Wile E. Coyotes when Bugs Bunny was on?
Not as much. I just felt like it was. I did, but I just preferred the classic. You know how I am about nostalgia. I like the classic Roadrunner versus Wile E. Coyote. It felt like an intrusion to have Bugs Bunny on, but they were still good.
Felt it was a nice break because of course the Wile E. Coyote ones are great, and we're going to talk about one of them, but like they're so repetitive with like it's obviously it's the same thing over and over again, just with different.
That's what makes it so damn funny.
Yeah, right. But the Bugs Bunny ones are give you that little bit of a variety, and I love hearing him talk. Because not only is it different, he gets to talk and he gets to act like he's all smart. So, yeah, I just was curious if you like those, and I love those. Gif.
Yeah, same as you guys. Like Saturday mornings and then after school on Captain 11, would watch these just constantly. And the great thing, as Brad said, the music is so amazing because there are so many cartoons that don't have any dialogue. You know, the Wile and Roadrunner generally don't have any dialogue. I watched one the other night of just like this one-off squirrel, and he's at a peanut stand or a nut stand, and he's all excited about all these free nuts, and he finally sees a coconut. What's that?
Your free nuts right
here. About you?
Right. And he finally finds a coconut, and he's trying to figure out how to open the coconut. And there's no dialogue. It's just so cute. The animation and then the music that goes along with it. And then, of course, you've got Bugs and Daffy and, you know, Foghorn. And there's plenty of dialogue in those. But the music, I think, is what really sets it apart, not leaning on dialogue. You're not necessarily learning anything wonderful and grand. It's repetitive storylines, but it's just so much fun. The colors are vibrant. It's a wonderful cartoon feel. And there's always a bad guy. There's always a good guy, it seems. Or and actually watching these back this time, I found a lot of times where there's not necessarily a good character like that you're really pulling for in the cartoon itself. Maybe
they're
both are kind of they're all exactly. That's a great way to put it. They're all rascals. They're all out for themselves, and there's not always a good guy in the cartoon in that episode. But they're just so much fun, and you know there is some stuff that I think maybe went over the heads of little kids. And again, they're old, so there's the stereotypes. There's a lot of violence, but I don't. Again, we had generations of people growing up on this stuff, and I never took that to heart. Like I'm going to go beat somebody up or shoot somebody. So that was just not in your thought. And you have all these different characters, and you can relate to some of them. One that I related to, I know you guys might be a bit taken aback by this, but the Tasmanian Devil.
Oh,
he's a bit of a spaz.
Oh, and he would definitely winner.
He would definitely win the spaz pad once in a while from our middle school. So yeah, they're just so much fun to watch, and the characters are wonderful in their play. So
when you think about the violence and everything, consider all of us Gen X. We were raised on Bugs Bunny, and probably turned out to be the most chill generation of all of them.
We
right?
are.
Like if you every generation has its problems, but I don't think I don't think Gen X is any worse than anybody else.
I think part of that though too is that we were left to our own devices. Growing up, parents go outside and play, come back when the street lights come on. So there was a lot of times where we fucked around and we found out, right?
Yeah.
So we understood that when it comes to more serious matters, that maybe not get into that, because I chipped both of my front teeth growing up, fucking around.
Burned yourself in a fire too.
I was going to bring that up. I really messed up at our Garth Brooks episode with the standing outside the fire when I did mention actually once stood inside a fire.
That would have been a good time.
Right. But so we went through some trials and tribulations growing up, and we didn't always come out unscathed. So I think, those fanciful thoughts of, really hardcore violence were not something in our minds, because we saw when things could really go wrong when we were out and about with our friends, just kind of messing around and end up with a broken arm or a broken finger, or come home and need stitches and
it's
just
cartoon
from having
violence.
And it's like
you can see Daffy get shot in the face and put his beak back. You're not an idiot when you're 5 and 6 either. You can tell that that's cartoon and it's fake, and give the kids some credit.
Right.
It's different than video games of today, where it looks very realistic,
or where you're actually killing people.
Right, exactly.
But I think my point is that we weren't just shut-ins. We were out in the world and taking some chances, and we knew that sometimes you do actually get hurt doing things. So maybe stay away from actually punching somebody in the face, or gun violence wasn't really a thought in your mind.
All right, so you had gotten into, you listed the Tasmanian Devil, and so we're going to go through 10 plus 1 plus some honorable mention cartoons tonight. And in my 10, my goal was to try to include as many different characters as I could, especially I loved. And I got to the point where I realized I couldn't fit them all in. Like we don't have a Tasmanian Devil one in here, even though I would have totally wanted that. We don't have
Sylvester Tweety.
We don't have a Sylvester and Tweety one, for God's sake, because there's just too many. And it was a combination of getting those characters in of good variety, but also the best cartoons that I knew that not only I love, but I knew that you would too, and that are like considered some of the best. And hopefully ones that our listeners will remember, because when I give the little reviews of them, these are pretty big cartoons. And so hopefully they'll be like, oh yeah, that's that one. And then they can play along with us. So when I said plus 1, the number 1 rated cartoon in history, and there's a few of these on this list that are in the top 50, but the number 1 rated cartoon in history is what?
What's Opera Doc?
What's up, Opera Doc?
And did we talk about that one even in high school, like all the time?
Yeah.
Yes.
All the time.
Of course.
So, but you can't really find a way to watch that one that I could find. It was really hard to get a version where you could watch it. You could read bits and pieces and everything, and I didn't want to like tie together 10 different things. So we didn't technically watch it, but we're going to kick this off just by talking, because we all remember it. We all loved it. In that, why is that one so good? What do you remember about that one first, without even watching it, without even thinking, just what stands out about it that makes it so great, Pete?
Couple of things that I remember. It's just that the lyrics and the music was so memorable. The kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit. and that whole thing, and the way it was written, it's comparable to Rabbit of Seville, which we'll talk about a little bit later, because it is that kind of opera thing. But it's like, I don't know, it probably stood out because it was Elmer Fudd versus Bugs Bunny, but it was not the typical it's not a hunting one, right? It's not out in the woods and hunting. But just the music gets you. It actually, music students, so for kids, it does teach you a little bit about opera. It probably is all of our first exposure to opera music.
Tells the whole story.
Using a tune very, very loosely. Yeah, right. Told the whole story.
Even has
very dramatic.
Sad ending until Bugs picks his head up to make sure he's okay, but he has to act like he's dead because that's how it goes. And
right.
And Elmer Fudd is so sad. I mean, it even gets to the emotion part of it as well.
Absolutely.
My favorite line, besides "Kill the Wabbit," is "with my sword and magic helmet." I mean, that's the one that we say all the time. You can apply that in so many ways to things.
Yes, you can.
Gifford, anything on this one before we get deep?
No, I think you guys covered it. Yeah, I mean, it's the Kill the Wabbit. The set is great, and like you say, it tells the whole story. I mean, it's some education in there if you really look for it. And the music is outstanding. I mean, it like Pete said, it introduced a lot of our young ears to that type of music. Not that we sat and listened to it nonstop, but it's a fun way to introduce that genre. So yeah, great cartoon for sure.
All right, so the 10 we're going to talk about in no particular order. I just started listening them, so these aren't ranked or anything like that, but we're going to go through them. Starting with Robin Hood Daffy from 1958. This is a good one to start with because this is one of those that I know is one of Gifford's favorites. This is one of those that I know that we would talk about. So in this cartoon, you have Daffy playing Robin Hood and singing at first, and he's getting mocked by Porky Pig, which is interesting because I don't like Porky Pig a whole lot in a lot of like the older cartoons when he was really used a lot and popular. This is one of his last big theatrical cartoons for Porky Pig. But I like him here because he's funny and he's not the star and he's not the big thing. But he's looking for Robin Hood, wants to join his gang, and Daffy's like, I'm Robin Hood. And in all his efforts to convince him that he is the real Robin Hood, he just continually humiliates himself and causes, of course, much physical pain through violence. And in the end, he gives up. He's not Robin Hood anymore, and he becomes Friar Duck, and he joins Porky as a team instead. So this is one of the last appearances of Porky Pig. I'm glad you brought up the colors, Gifford, because one of my first comments on this one One of the things that I love about these cartoons is the vibrant colors, and this is a great example of that. I don't like the dark cartoons. I don't like ones that don't. I love the visual and the bright, colorful stuff, and this one is a great example of that. And many Looney Tunes ones are examples of that. So we're going to talk about what you remember about this cartoon and any quotes, things that you remember and love about this one.
Did you say it was his Porky Pig's last appearance? I thought this was one of the older ones.
No, it said it was one of his last appearances in a theatrical.
Really?
No, if you go back, like when I used to watch the afternoon versions of the Looney Tunes, you would always get like older Porky Pig ones, and they're not very funny.
Okay.
And they're not.
Okay.
When he got into this kind of thing with Daffy Duck, that was like a different Porky Pig, which is a much better Porky Pig, in my opinion.
Well, just my commentary on Porky Pig is Friar Tuck. He's laughing all the time because that was a characteristic of, wasn't it like Friar Tuck in the original Robin Hood? Like that's his character, is that he's known for laughing all the time.
Band of
exactly, yeah.
Of what am I looking for? Merry band of
thieves.
Men, I guess. So yeah, Robin Hood and his merry band of men. So yeah, I mean he's obviously has that temperament.
Right, but that's what Friar Tuck was laughing all the time, and that was his thing. And so it does teach you, again, it teaches you a little bit about literature. Watching these cartoons in some cases do that. So I was reminded of Clark Griswold about 4 times during this cartoon. It's like where he keeps on hitting himself in the face with the board or whatever it was.
Daffy is a little Clark-like.
Yeah. I like feel that Clark Griswold was probably, or at least aspects of him, were based on Looney Tunes.
Superiorly confident when he should not be, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
What if
it might be a good thought too. You think about like what kind of influence that these cartoons had on some of the 80s goofball movies, right? Would we have Naked Gun without some of the these cartoons? I don't know. I'm sure it has
what kind of influence they had on John Hughes, who wrote that, the Vacation movies
too. Right. Yeah.
Influenced, I'm sure, tons of stuff. That's the beauty of it.
Exactly. Right. But yeah, I enjoyed it. As far as I didn't have like a lot of lines written down except for yoinks and away, and then he goes and keeps hitting the trees one after the other. That's the Clark Griswold moment. There. Just like it doesn't stop. You think he's going to be okay, and then it just yeah.
Griffin, what's your favorite line in this? Go ahead.
My favorite line, and this is why it's one of my favorite episodes, is when he starts the cartoon and he's strumming on his little guitar there, and he's singing his beautiful song, and he does the and we trip along merrily, and we trip and trip, and then he hits a downslope, and we're tripping, and he just goes off the cliff into the water. And then this is where you see Porky Pig as Friar Tuck, and his laughter, as you see, is contagious. I mean, his laughter he's belly laughing so hard at Robin Hood here, and at one point Daffy comes up to him and starts laughing too. Like can't help himself because of how funny this belly laugh is that Friar Tuck has got going. So it's the tripping, and then the laughter from Friar Tuck that is just so awesome in this cartoon.
The one other line that I love is before he laughs with him, he's really upset. I just love the way he says, "Ha ha, it is to laugh."
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite gag in this cartoon, because it's hard to keep track of all the stuff that happens in 6 minutes because it's nonstop.
Right.
But I love when he's trying to prove he's Robin Hood, and he shoots the arrow at First of all, I just love the big fat guy and the big fat horse, and the way the horse has the little tiny feet.
Prancing.
It's more of a donkey, really, than a horse.
But he shoots the arrow at him, and that horse is going to fall like into a moat, and the arrow hits the other side and creates a bridge that he just goes over to get over safely, and the guy has no idea what he's even doing
without breaking stride. Like it's just right. Perfect timing. How many times do we have attempted murder in this cartoon? Because there's one. He was going to skewer him with a huge spear, and of course, I think he tried to drop a rock on him. He's swinging with the yoinks and away. I love it. One of the things I love was the gag of him with his buck and a quarter staff. By the way, not his quarter staff. He's got a buck and a quarter staff, and he has his whole fighting routine, which completely messes up, and hits himself in the face with his quarterstaff.
Knocks his bill up and.
Yep. And then on top of that, he's doing the whole thing, and he gets into the spin, and Friar Tuck comes along with basically just a twig and sticks it in there, which stops the quarterstaff from spinning, and Daffy Duck goes spinning, and it's so great. I just love everything about this cartoon. The other thing I love is that, of course, Porky is unconvinced, as he should be, that this is Robin Hood that he's speaking to. And he continually calls him clown and gesture. I mean, it's just so matter-of-factly, like, great job, clown, or whatever. It's just so funny how he speaks to him so condescendingly.
That's another thing you get. A lot of name calling and like rude language in these, but it's hilarious.
Right.
All right. So
Robin again, that's why the younger generation is probably more offended than because we didn't care. This is how you form bonds with people, is that you give each other shit, right? And it's like now they say the younger generation is offended by shows like Seinfeld and Friends and everything. It's like, well, what's that, Brad?
They're offended by everything.
Yeah. That's because they haven't been through it. That's why.
But this stuff was getting edited long before the people you're speaking of. I mean, this stuff was edited back when we were kids already. You didn't see some of the violence and stuff on TV.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is that they weren't raised on bugs. We were raised on these cartoons. The younger generations were not, and so they're not used to like this kind of ribbing that people give each other. Right.
They were raised on Blues Clues and Pound Puppy, or not Pound Puppies. What's the
everything was rainbows and butterflies for them.
5 dogs that saved the day or whatever. Right. And there's always a message that needs to be learned. There's no message in these cartoons. They're just crazy happenstance. Nothing's ever learned because, like you say.
That was Larry David's hallmark of Seinfeld too. He didn't want any lessons or anything like that learned from it.
Right. But like you say, Pete, so many of the Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner cartoons are the same thing over and over. Wile never learns his lesson. He believes every time that he's going to end up with this succulent meal and he's going to catch the Roadrunner. Yes, he is a genius, and he never does. That's the beauty of it.
All right, let's move on. So the next one, we'll get my 2 ones with Gifford out of the way right away here, Pete. Hillbilly Hair is the one that 2 of us, I think, remember the most. There are some great lines here. This cartoon, I've got so much written down. This is one of my favorites of all time. Mm-hmm. Brought me a little closer to GIF, which is always nice. But so Hillbilly Hair, in case you don't know this one, starts with Bugs singing about mountain music while he's on vacation in the Ozarks. And he gets shot at by a hillbilly who thinks they are a feudin'. Then another hillbilly named Pumpkinhead Martin tries to shoot at him as well. Bugs dresses up as a girl, which, is a theme we see quite often. He tries to lure them into a square dance. While they're square dancing to the jukebox, Bugs sneaks out and takes over as the caller. And this is where it gets good. So Bugs starts calling. The fiddle riff is just amazing. The music in this one is absolutely amazing. And everything he says they're doing, he has them beat each other up. He has them dance with pigs. Eventually, they fall off a cliff at the end. And that's the lesson. These guys shot at him, so he just made them beat each other to hell over and over again. But set to great.
And they're not the smartest.
Well, that's the stereotype that they're rednecks and they're stupid. I mean, they're stupid. That's the whole. Right. We get into that here. So this one was edited for violence when it was aired on ABC. So I'm going to read a little part here that was taken out. This is one of the lines in the square dance that was taken out. Grab a fence post, hold it tight, whomp your partner with all your might. Hit him in the shin, hit him in the head, hit him again, the critter ain't dead. Whomp him low and whomp him high, stick your finger in his eye. Pretty little rhythm, pretty little sound, bank your head against the ground. And they just start beating each other.
That's in there. That was in there.
Well, yeah, the ones we watched weren't edited.
Okay.
I'm saying these at one time on TV, these things were like.
I gotcha.
So you get so much here. You get great music. You get Bugs Bunny as a girl. You get stereotypes. You get this one really has everything.
Everything. Yeah.
And it is one of my favorites of all time. So there's so many lines that I love. There's so many things. But I'll let Gifford, you go first this time. What did you write about this one?
Well, first off, I love the two feuding families are the Martin and the Coys.
The Coys.
Rather than the Hatfields and McCoys.
And it all starts because Bugs uses the word coy toward him, and he thinks that Bugs is a coy because he doesn't understand the word coy.
Right.
Stupid, you know.
Not overly bright. This is how so many of the Bugs Bunny cartoons start, is he is slighted in some way. And then the rest of the cartoon is him.
This means war.
Correct. Yes, which we'll get into a little bit later as well. So he is slighted, and then he proceeds to put the person who slighted him through hell. Again, the music is out. What's that?
Bugs always wins.
Correct. The music is outstanding. I love the fact, I'm a farm kid. There's a hay baler in this one, which is outstanding. And the lyrics in his square dance are so funny, and the way that they're matched with the guys doing exactly what he says. And of course, my favorite line from this is "Whirl, whirl, twist and twirl, jump around like a flying squirrel. Don't you?"
The one we would say.
Right. Step right up and form a square, and then they're putting the hay baler, and it's just so funny.
Trout, pretty little trout.
Pretty little trout.
just
so good.
Just the way that the hillbillies are talking to each other, like, "Hey, you darn fool!"
They've got the language down.
Just the whole thing is just. I couldn't stop laughing just at how they were talking, and then it got funnier and funnier as it kept going. You mentioned that he square dances them right off a cliff. Didn't he also go off a bridge at one point too? They promenade across the floor, and then
they end up in the river with the trout, pretty little trout.
Right. Yes.
Right. How hot was Girl Bugs though? By the way, huh?
Well, he fools everybody.
Well, what I love is when he plugs in he goes to the jukebox. There's actually people standing in the jukebox just waiting for you to put a quarter in, or a nickel. That's what it was, a nickel. And they just sit there all day long and then pop up when it's their time to play. I really enjoyed that. A little reminiscent of maybe like Chuck E. Cheese with the animatronic, but in this case they're three real dudes
just hanging out. Same thing. Jukebox.
Yeah.
When we talked about Robin Hood Daffy a minute ago, you said that was one of the newer ones. Do you remember if this was one of the older ones or a newer one?
I meant to say the dates. This was from 1950, so this is 8 years before Robin Hood Daffy.
Because I was wondering, it couldn't have been before Elmer Fudd then, because I was thinking that the Hunter part at the beginning was like a precursor to Elmer Fudd, but not really, apparently. So, yeah, no.
Well, actually, it could have been around
already covered all the other.
The Elmer Fudd that we're going to do is Rabbit Seasoning 1952, and I think that was the second of like the three, like it's called a trilogy. So it is possible, maybe, that Elmer Fudd came right after this one.
Okay.
Good observation. I did pick
Thank you.
I wanted to sum this one up. I found a thing online that I think this is actually from Wikipedia, but it was just so perfectly written. What elevates Hillbilly Hair to the top rank of Looney Tunes cartoons is its second half, a relentless, hilariously insane square dance called by Bugs. The rabbit's instructions are religiously carried out by the hillbillies. My other favorite line is, "I'll pull your bird, you pull mine." Who bludgeon each other senseless in the process. This 3-minute crescendo of slapstick is one of the greatest sustained pieces of comedy ever drawn. I mean, that just sums it up.
Well done. Yeah.
And with the music, though, I'm not kidding. It is so catchy. I could put that on a CD player right now, and it would be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can whirl, twist, and twirl all day long.
All right, so we go now to a classic. Speaking of what's opera, Doc, and learning some classical music, and speaking of no dialogue, we are now up to The Rabbit of Seville. This is possibly the best cartoon ever. It's in the conversation. So this one actually, in this thing, the top 50 cartoons that I found, it was made in 1994, but by cartoonists and like people that are supposed to know, this was ranked 12. So not maybe as high as I would have thought, but it's way up there. It starts with an orchestra performing The Barber of Seville, but outside of the bandshell, Elmer Fudd is hunting bugs. Oh, this is from 1950. We just answered our own question. Elmer is hunting bugs in this one in 1950.
All right.
They end up on stage, and Bugs is singing, and he gets Elmer in a chair, a barber's chair. Bugs again fools Elmer by acting as a woman, and after many shenanigans, he eventually confuses Elmer enough to put on a dress himself and be the bride in their marriage. Bugs carries Elmer upstairs as his bride and drops him off a catwalk and into their wedding cake as the opera ends.
Yes.
And again, there's really no dialogue. It's all the music, and this is the one where
it's all the music.
Everything is set so perfectly to the music. So my favorite part, and this is my wife's favorite cartoon too, because she's a hairstylist, but when he is kneading Elmer's bald head, and it's exactly to the music. And then when they're racing their chairs to the ceiling, to the music, and every time Elmer would shoot at him, his chair would shoot back down. I just love that visual.
No, it wouldn't shoot back down. He would stop pumping it, so it just wouldn't go up.
I think his chair. I
don't think they ever went down. They were always going up.
I don't know. Anyway,
maybe I'm
and
wrong.
Then Bugs, he's also massaging his head and slapping it with his ears, and it's all set to the music. It's all sight gags. It's just not much to say about this one. It's just absolutely brilliant combination of art, music, humor, all in one. Everything.
Yeah, the awesome in this one too.
The part with the scalp massage is awesome, and they do it twice. This is the only cartoon in which, for a moment, Bugs has 5 fingers, and it's when he's doing the piano on the scalp over his own fingers.
Wow.
So if you look in that moment, he has 5 fingers.
That's a good.
Otherwise, like every other cartoon generally has 4 fingers.
Yeah, because you get a close up on the fingers there to the music. It's another just great touch. I don't know. I don't know anything. I don't know anything about drawing cartoons, but I just don't understand how they can do it and then have it set so in sync when you're drawing it. It boggles my mind. It's truly amazing to me.
It's
to have it set to music that way.
Yeah. We also get double drag, which is kind of fun in this one because, of course, like you say, we have Bugs in a dress and then Elmer in a dress later on. So that's always fun. But yeah, the music is phenomenal in this, and of course, it is the music from the opera, The Barber of Seville. So again, a first time introduction for me to that opera.
And you know all this music, you know it, and you probably learned it first from Bugs Bunny, but these are famous songs that you always associate them with what you saw here.
You talk about violence. There's one spot in this one where he takes the straight edge razor and his head is turned. He totally slashes his face. It's like, my God. And then, of course, the old knot in the rifle barrel, which is pretty classic in most of these cartoons. That strikes again. Yep. Did he shoot backwards, or was it just the knot in the barrel? Because that's a different gag. Yeah, it just kind of made it blow up back in his face. But there are some where he'll actually bend it backwards and shoot them straight in the face. That's more common, I think, with Daffy Duck.
That's a little more Daffy Duckish. Correct.
Right. Yep. Right. And then the little gags too, like he paints his toes and then uses the hair restorers to give him the beard, and then he concretes his face.
Yeah, and then he fills it off.
And then how we like the brush strokes to get it off, of course, is with the music again. Brushing off just the little pebbles that are left. It's great. It's absolutely amazing.
Again, it probably inspired. I enjoy going to musicals like we go to the Orpheum. Maybe this inspired that. Well, I enjoy him. I don't know.
The next one is a character that I could not leave out of our 10. This is one of the greatest characters in comedy history, and that's Foghorn Leghorn. This is, I think I picked the first one. It's called The Foghorn Leghorn. It's from 1948, which kind of surprised me. I always felt like Foghorn Leghorn was maybe a newer character, but 1948, that goes back for a lot of these that we're talking about. So, been around a long time. Outside of Bugs, he's probably my favorite character.
Yeah,
that I've ever seen. I just love the way he talks. But anyway, the little synopsis of this one is you have Henry Hawk, this little chicken hawk, who thinks he's bigger than his britches, and he's looking for a chicken. Meanwhile, his dad, who tells him that he can't do this yet, gets caught by Foghorn Leghorn. Henry thinks that he catches a chicken when he catches the barnyard dog instead, because Foghorn told him there's a chicken in there, and he doesn't know anything yet. He's just a kid. But Foghorn, who is a loudmouth schnook, tells him that he is a chicken because even though he can't never stop. He's got to be right, and he's got to prove the guy wrong, even if it's going to cause him own personal problems. Brewster, that is. And it ends, ironically, as Henry is finally convinced that he has him, and Foghorn refers to himself as a loudmouth schnook instead of a chicken, because Henry thinks that he is a loudmouth schnook because that's what his dad called him. So that's what he thinks that's what he is, whatever.
And that's what the dog calls him. That's what the dog calls him too. Right.
So Henry just will listen to what anybody tells him. But unlike Bugs, Foghorn's hilarious and he's smart and he'll tell you, but he always does things that end up getting him in trouble. He doesn't get away with it. He can't quit. He's a good lesson to a kid about when to shut up.
Right.
I keep pitching him. You keep missing him.
Well, so watching this time, I finally realized what. So we were talking about things being inspired by these cartoons. One of my favorite movies. I've talked about it a few times on this show. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? John Goodman's character in that movie, I feel, is a human embodiment of Foghorn Leghorn. Larger than life, talks real loud, talks real fast. So that to me is Foghorn Leghorn, just out there and brash. And again, we talk about like so much of these cartoons is music and not necessarily dialogue driven. Foghorn is always dialogue driven. It is so fast speaking. There's so many funny things. He cracks himself up. Everything he says, he thinks is the funniest thing that's ever been said. And it's just outstanding. I've got some lines here, but I'm going to let Pete go first.
Nice kid, but a little dumb.
Right.
Keep pitching him. You keep.
One thing that's different about Foghorn Leghorn is that you don't know who's going to win. Like all the other cartoons, obviously Bugs is going to win, or whoever the main character is going to win, or whatever. You don't know who's going to win, and in fact, Foghorn gets captured at the end of this one. I don't know that he got captured at the end of everyone, or it was kind of back and forth between him and the chicken hawk in most of them. But he doesn't get caught
or the dog.
like he actually did in this.
Well, and even if he ends up getting caught or whatever, he always will have. In his cartoon, Foghorn will beat the crap out of something along the way. Like he'll have the upper hand for sure.
He does, but that's not how this is. This one ended with him getting captured. So you assume that he got captured and taken.
But he's still okay because you know that he's getting drug away by this tiny little hawk.
He's just sitting there with his hand on his head, like I'm just not fighting back right now. But
right.
Well,
and you talk about how he's always going to kick the crap out of something. I love in this one how he goes after the dad hawk, and he's not punching him. He's just hitting him with his big fat gut, like moving him around the barnyard. It's just outstanding, and talking the entire time. Like, it's like, what are you doing, son? Like his line was, your tongue's flapping, but no noise is coming out your mouth. Like, but the guy can't get a word in edgewise because he keeps hitting him with his gut. It's just
that's
so
a strange
great.
means of locomotion.
Right.
That's another line I had written down.
Well, and everything, it's dialogue driven. It's so many, but it's the cadence too. I mean, the way they wrote this thing is just, I say, and I am a chicken rooster, that is. And it's just always that double talk and the repeating. And it's so funny without even being funny. The way he speaks is funny. And it's just amazing. Right. Foghorn Leghorn is he's a banger of a character.
Well, and you talk about your favorite line is, I keep pitching them and you keep missing them. My favorite line is, you're built too low. The fast ones go right over your head.
Right over your head.
Oh my God, it's so great. And then he says something. He says something to Henry about, I say, son, what's the gimmick? What's this all about? Like, he's just always, he can't just say one thing. He's got to say like 3 sentences to get his point across.
Right. All right, so I mean, we could have done several Foghorns, but we got one in.
Yep.
Now we're going on to another all-timer here from 1955, One Froggy Evening, which doesn't have Bugs, doesn't have any of your usual characters that you love, but this one, the whole WB mascot of their network was based on this. You had a reference in Spaceballs at the end of the alien from this.
Yep. Yes.
And this is One Froggy Evening was voted the number 5 best cartoon. And this one is in the National Film Registry, added in 2000. So in case you don't remember One Froggy Evening, the title's pretty good at giving it away. But this is the one where you got a guy working a construction site, and he unearths a singing frog from like a time capsule. And as he's singing, he's dreaming of fame and riches because he's going to have this frog, entertain. So he brings him to a whole bunch of agents, but the frog will never sing when he's there. So he keeps getting turned away, and he will then sing just in front of this guy. He will only sing for him, even to the point where he gets arrested by a cop because he hears the racket, and then he can't prove it because the frog won't sing. He finally rents a theater anyway because he's sure it's going to work. He offers free beer to get a crowd. He gets booed off, eventually sent to a psychopathic hospital, which is what it's called. And then he gets out. And of course, the frog's still singing in there. He gets out, he reburies the frog in a new site for a new sucker to unearth in 2056.
It's only 31
Apparently,
years.
this frog is immortal, too. That's the other thing. It's not just a singing frog. It never dies.
It survives being buried in concrete in a box.
With no food.
For probably 100 years. Yeah.
This frog is the devil. Okay, because it starts out with the construction worker. They're tearing down this old building, and on the time capsule, I think it says like 1920, or maybe it's even older than that. And it ends in 2058 or whatever when it's unearthed again. So this thing has been locked away, no food, no air, no nothing. It ruins whoever's life finds him. So this frog is an evil demon, an immortal being.
It's kind of like, I wonder if it's based kind of off the monkey's paw, where you think you're going to get rich and famous or whatever, but there's always the bad side that comes with it. This little frog is kind of like that thing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a really, wow. All
Thank you. I just thought
that's a really I had no words. a really unexpected comparison, I guess, is what
you have to take your glasses off now, Pete.
My glasses are off. Are you blind?
No, that's what you had to do when we listened to Rodeo from Garth.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I took my glasses off as we started recording because I knew this was going to be a podcast episode. Do you notice other than the singing, there's absolutely no dialogue in this one?
Correct. Yeah, like when he goes to the agents, they just they shoo him away, but they never say anything. That's right. Another great use of no dialogue.
Right. And then the music just gets stuck in your head. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. But yeah,
the Michigan rag.
That was pretty good, Brad. I think what we're going to do, Gifford, is that we're going to have Brad sing in front of a crowd, and we're going to make all kinds of money doing that. But then
he'll clam.
Brad won't sing. He won't sing.
Yeah, he'll clam up in front of a live audience.
But maybe that's maybe ragtime it hits my voice register just right. Maybe that's what I do.
I think it does.
That could be it.
I think it does.
Well, the other thing, we'll bury him until 2056. How's that?
Right. The other thing I really enjoyed about this one was the slight looks of the characters towards the camera, towards the audience.
Well, that's a hallmark of these. Daffy Duck has a great side eye.
Yep. Breaking the fourth wall.
But you're right. That is a really good observation in this cartoon.
Right.
And so a lot of these songs are like famous songs, like "Hello My Baby, Hello My Darling," but some of them, like "Do the Michigan Rag," that was actually written for this cartoon. So you had kind of a mix of things, but the music is fantastic. It's like it's catchy, and when you see the dog dancing and singing, like you just can't help but get swept up in it, like the guy. It's like, who wouldn't want to see this?
Well, and then the complete turnaround when somebody else is in front of the frog is absolutely great, because he just gives that disaffected look, and
he's just like a puddle too. When he's singing and dancing, he's so proud, and but then he's just
he's wearing a little top hat and a cane.
Yeah.
Right.
So just to clarify, in case the Spaceballs reference is the alien at the end, it's it comes out like an alien, but then he does the "Hello My Baby, Hello My Darling" dance, just like the frog,
with the cane and the top hat and the whole bit, and
which of course a lot of our audience here will recognize and remember that.
Sure.
All right, moving on. Oh, here's a good one. Pete already brought up how much you love this one. So another character,
sneaky favorite.
Yeah. Another character who we could not leave off the main 10, but who also can be very problematic, is Pepe.
Can be?
Oh my God, is this hilarious?
So funny.
Oh my God.
It's so funny.
Yeah, it stretches the boundaries, yes.
But here's the deal. This is for sentimental reasons, pun, SCEN, and it's from 1949. He's problematic, but hey, guess what? This won the Academy Award for Best Animated Short. So, I mean, people loved it. You love the way that Foghorn talks. I double that up. I love the way, the French accent, but just all the things he says they're just fantastic. So,
and again, supremely confident in himself at all times.
So in this Pepe installment, we have a happy guy, kind of like the dude in the on the horse in the
Robin Hood
one. There's this big happy guy on his bike driving to work. And he's got a perfume store. And when he gets there and opens the door, he screams, running away, and he goes to get a cop. And he comes back, and we find there's a skunk in there. And then a cat comes in. And it's just not only Pepe, but Le Mew.
Yes.
Le Mew. Le Perreur.
Le Perreur.
So he throws the cat in, and every time this happens, some hair dye or dye falls down and just makes a perfect white streak on the back of the cat, making it look like a skunk, which then catches Pepe's eye, and the chase is on. So that's all Pepe does. He chases women. So he has to fake suicide to get her to come to him. She escapes again. After they end up really falling, he falls in some paint, and he looks totally buff in this blue paint.
He does.
Her actually intrigued by him, but now she's all sick and haggard, and he's not interested in her anymore. The tables are turned, and Pepe gets to see the other side, and actually ends with him taking the inappropriate moves all from the cat instead.
Right.
So he kind of learns his lesson. It's very similar to Foghorn in that way. The supremely confident, funny, interesting to listen to, but they're going to get themselves in trouble, and they don't always really get. The good news is, as problematic as he is, he never gets away with it. He does end up usually getting kind of treated pretty bad at the end, doesn't he? I don't remember every cartoon, but.
Well, yeah, it does. Basically, his aggressive sexual assault turns into aggressive sexual assault against him.
Good. Yeah. So
this one has the nice little twist of not one but two suicide attempts in it.
Yes.
Right.
So, one by use of handgun to the head, and another one by jumping out of a window. So there are definitely some issues with the Pepe storyline, but again, the character himself is, like you say, the things that he says are so great. Like the small one, she make herself dainty for me. He's so fucking clueless every single time, but that doesn't matter because he's confident.
They something happens and he has to start over, and he goes, "Well, we continue with the wooing." And then he sings, "Alouette, gentil alouette."
She's always running. She's always running, just like hopping.
But yet keeping up.
A slow little hop.
Yeah.
She's running so fast, they have the plane sound for her, how fast she's running, and then he's just doink, doink, doink. the whole time. The other line I love is, "I'm the locksmith of love," and as he, is peeking through the top window of the door.
Love it. So speaking of the suicide attempts, when she's going to commit suicide, I love that he thinks that's a sweet gesture.
Yes.
Nevertheless,
yes, that's a sweet gesture.
Nevertheless, I must prevent it.
Romeo and Juliet, right? Like, I mean, it's all very, very romantic.
And he's excited because she falls, and he's like, "We die together."
The other thing I was wondering, so like you said, there's always like a white paint or something that comes and hits the cat and makes a streak. This one was white hair dye. Who the hell keeps around white hair dye? Usually you're dyeing your hair to get away from the white and the gray. We don't ask that question.
They got all kinds of stuff at the perfume store.
That's the question that went too far. Not so much about the fake suicides and the sexual assaults.
But I love
the white hair identified too far.
You've identified the one Looney Tunes.
He falls into the blue paint, which saves his life from the fall. And I love when he comes out and he goes, "I am not dead. No."
Well, and it's another great story. It's another great lesson to all the kids out there that go after the hot chicks, but if anybody that's sickly and haggard comes after you, you got to run away and do whatever you can to get away from them. So
there's not a lot of good messages in this one at all, but it is so funny. I mean, it is. I don't care how inappropriate it is. I don't care about anything. It is brilliantly funny, and everybody can understand the humor in it, and then admit that it's okay, whatever. It's a product of its time, and it's still funny as shit.
I tell you what we're gonna do to bring it into this century, we're just gonna rebrand it into a dark comedy.
Yeah,
everybody loves dark comedies, right? So we're just going to rebrand it as a dark comedy, and then it'll be okay to watch in this century. So it'll be all right.
All right, we're up to our 7th. Pete's going to like this one because he already told us his favorites are Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. So this is Fast and Furious from 1949. This is actually the debut of Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. So Foghorn Leghorn was around before these two. Like that, to me, that seems surprising.
Wow.
In this one, it follows the pattern. Wile E. tries to catch a Roadrunner. A couple things that he uses are a boomerang, a school crossing, a rocket, a falling rock, a scene painted on a rock, dynamite, a superhero costume, a snowmaker with skis, jet-propelled tennis shoes. But everything he uses always works against him. Of course, we have no dialogue in this one other than meet, meet. And I already mentioned I like the Bugs Bunny ones, but these I like these. I mean, I'll always watch these, but like they get to be a little repetitive. But the thing that I love about these cartoons is the setting, the Monument Valley landscape, which in real life I am like fascinated with, and I love to drive through there and see it. It's amazing. So I love the views and everything, even though they're fake, but it's realistic and they're great. They're great. So Pete, why do you love these so much? Or this one?
Just because of how just all the different little things, and like you said, the repetitiveness is what makes it funny, because it's like what's going to happen, and it just keeps happening. It's not unlike Clark Griswold. It's coming up. He's going to hit his head with a bird, but it doesn't lose its charm. It's just all these different things keep happening, and the clever little things that Roadrunner does to get him. I don't know what it is about it. It's just like this was like comfort TV for me.
That's
it's
good.
So funny.
Well, and you said this is the first episode?
That's what it said. It was the debut.
So this one, introduces the trope of him painting a tunnel and the Roadrunner being able to go through the tunnel and then back again in this
That's
one.
Definitely my favorite gag.
Which is great. And it would also explain why I believe everything that he buys, nothing says Acme on it. So Acme, the whole Acme must have come later. And that is one of the things Pete mentioned, that it's the same thing over and over. But the beauty of it is the twist of what does he try next? What did he get from Acme in this episode to try to flag down this Roadrunner? So to me, the real brilliance in this one is the skis combined with a refrigerator and a battery and a meat grinder on his back, and the stuff, the ice comes out of the freezer behind him through the meat grinder to make snow. This is like a precursor to Mr. Freeze or Frozone in The Incredibles. It's absolutely amazing. He's always thinking of what is going to work, and nothing ever does. The beauty of trying to drop a rock on the Roadrunner, and when he pulls the keystone out, it's obviously leaning one way. It's going to fall off the cliff, but when he pulls the keystone, it flops back the other way on top of him.
Well, that's
here's my question.
Yeah.
My question is, okay, the reason he wants to catch a Roadrunner is because he needs food. He wants to eat him, right?
Right.
Now, if he smashes him with a gigantic boulder, he's not going to, he tries all these things that are just going to obliterate the Roadrunner if they're successful anyway. So it's like, what's the point?
You don't care about food. You just want to win.
Right. Yeah.
I like the creativity in what they being such a repetitive thing. I love the creativity in what they can come up with each one.
Mm-hmm.
I also like when we see his blueprints in this one. Anytime you get to see his blueprints and how he's got it all planned out, I like that's a nice touch. But like he's going to lose, but some of his schemes actually look like they are going to work, and so it's always fun to see. Okay, like the paint on the wall, like obviously the Roadrunner. But then you get to see how does the Roadrunner get out of it, and obviously it makes no sense. He can just go right through it instead.
Right. Yes.
And back.
Two things in this one. What's with the interstate interchange in the middle of the desert?
Yeah,
like that's and it is extensive. Like, I mean, there's multiple layers, which is absolutely great. And then the other gag that I liked in this one is when. Of course, we get Wily and Drag, so that's a trope that we continue to see throughout the Looney Tunes.
Not just Bugs.
Not as hot as Bugs.
But he's trying to do a school crossing, and the Roadrunner blows by, but then he comes back with a sign, and the sign says Roadrunners can't read, but obviously they can write because he made a sign. So I think that's just something that might go over the head of kids, but I found it just hilarious.
I don't think I've ever thought of that. That's pretty funny. What's also funny that to be a school crossing guard, he has to dress up like a woman.
Well, of course, stereotype again, correct?
1949. It's only going to be.
Yes. Correct.
All right. Number 8, another character I cannot leave off the list is Yosemite Sam from 1949. This is the one I always think of first, and there's a lot of great ones, but High Diving Hair is the one we're going to talk about here. First of all, Sam reminds me a lot of our friend Haken. I think Pete will probably agree to that.
I never thought of that before, but I see it
also,
now.
As I was watching it this time, it reminded me of my Corgi too, because he's such a little spaz and does so many dumb things. But in this one, Bugs is selling tickets in the Old West to a vaudeville-style show, including Fearless Freak. So Yosemite,
just that name right there. Fearless Freak.
Yosemite is the number one fan. And so not only does he buy one ticket, he buys all the tickets and is very pushy about seeing his boy. Which is interesting, though, because it's full house when it happens. But did he just give the tickets away or what? While he's on stage waiting for Fearless Freak, he gets a telegram, Bugs does, that says he can't make it. He'll come tomorrow. So he goes on and says, okay, well, I'm sorry. We're going to have to postpone it till tomorrow. Yosemite doesn't like that. He doesn't have any patience. He says, I'm going to see some diving. And so he's going to make Bugs do it. And of course, a series now ensues of Bugs continually tricking Sam into being the one who falls from the high dive every single time. And he never gives up. And Bugs just keeps getting him every time. First of all, well, you go ahead first, but I got some really good quotes because everything Yosemite says.
I just love when they do all these gags and everything, and eventually they stop even showing the gags. They just show Bugs up there, he climbs back up, and falling right back down again.
Static camera.
Like
and all it is just up and down. That's all you see.
Yeah. He just doesn't quit. And then there's the one like where where it totally defies gravity, where he saws the board in half, and it's a whole the whole contraption falls
platform
with Yosemite Sam on it. Yeah, it collapses. and Bugs is still levitating up in the air on this one piece of wood.
Right. Well, that's like the Roadrunner being able to run through the painted tunnel, right? Like they do it all the time in Looney Tunes, and it's just great. And Bugs is always gonna win. He's always gonna win against Yosemite Sam, for sure. One of the lines I love in this, when he's out selling the tickets and he's barking about how great the show is, and Yosemite runs up, looking for tickets, and Bugs goes, "Step aside, son, you bother me." I love that so much.
Well, mine.
I'm going to use that one now.
It's Yosemite when he's going to buy the tickets. Splurging. Paid my 4 bits to see the high diving act, and I'm going to see it. That someone's going to be you.
Yes.
But he's buying all the tickets. I'm a splurging.
By the way, it's a high dive. It's advertised as a high dive into a bucket of water.
It's not much more than that. I mean, holy cow! It's just a tiny little barrel that he's jumping into.
Another one of the.
What I'm impressed with is this venue's ceiling height, because it is 500 feet in the air that he's jumping off of this platform. So from the outside, it doesn't look like it's more than a 2-story building, but on the inside, it's a much bigger stage.
One of my favorite gags visually in this is when Sam is falling and just his mustache is flying up. I just think that's really funny. But there's also, speaking of gravity and not making sense, there's a time where he falls, but then he flies back up to say, "I hate you," before falling back down again.
Yes.
I also when he's running up the ladder one time and he's just randomly shooting his guns because he's just so pissed off.
It would be interesting if somebody went through and counted all the bullets that Yosemite Sam has ever fired off through his 6 shooters. That would be something. One of my favorite gags is when Sam drops off the platform and Bugs says, "Oh my God, I didn't put water in the barrel." So he throws the water down, and then Sam jumps on the water.
In order to race the water down there.
And then he gets it down in time, but then he misses the bucket anyway.
Then he misses the platform, yes.
The water goes in the bucket, fills up, and he misses the bucket.
That reminded me of the Santa Claus in the beginning of Christmas Vacation, when he's aiming at the skylight and he goes through the roof.
Well, and I think we got to say that you got to think, speaking of Christmas, that Joe Pesci's character in Home Alone, a lot of that stuff had to be inspired by Yosemite Sam, too. The way he talks, a lot of the same idiotic visual things that happen with Kevin and everything. Kevin's like Bugs, and they're like Yosemite Sam.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
I give you that. Yeah.
All right, so we love Yosemite Sam. A little milder version of him is Elmer Fudd, and we're moving. So we did meet Elmer Fudd at the Rabbit of Seville, but he didn't say much in that one. I don't remember if there's any dialogue in that one. But a classic is Rabbit Seasoning from 1952. This was ranked at the number 30 of the greatest cartoons of all time. But the great thing about this one is it's Elmer and Bugs, and you get to hear him talk, but you also have Daffy. And when you put all 3 together, you got some gold happening there. So in this one, it's rabbit season, as Daffy so unsubtly makes clear with about 100 signs. Elmer finds Bugs and is too stupid to know that he's a rabbit. So he's hunting rabbits and he doesn't recognize what a rabbit is. I mean, that's one of the dumbest things in all these cartoons. But in classic Looney Tunes irony, Bugs keeps turning the tables on Daffy so that he gets shot instead. We get to see Bugs dressed as a girl yet again. Daffy keeps getting shot, and he gets his famous line in here, "You're despicable." So that is just basically it's Bugs getting Daffy shot to avoid and even when Daffy thinks he turns the tables, he doesn't realize when it's flipped back on him. And Elmer is just too stupid to even know what he's doing. He just does what he's told. All right. I love the dynamic of Bugs and Daffy together.
Yes.
I think that they are great. There's lots of them where they're great. This is the one we got to watch here. This was part of considered a trilogy of Bugs, Daffy, and Elmer Fudd of these hunting cartoons. This is considered apparently the best, I guess. What say you, Pete?
It's got to be right up there. This was more classic Elmer Fudd, like you said. We talked about Elmer Fudd earlier, but this is like more what you picture Elmer Fudd to be. And absolutely, it's going to be an all-time classic when you have those three together. I just love listening to Elmer Fudd talk. Just like literally everything that he says, it's just hilarious. The way he says it and how stupid he is, it just always gets me. And then obviously the dynamic between the back and forth. There is a lot of gun violence in this one, that's for sure. But we talked about that earlier. But like, oh boy, wabbit twacks. Yeah, this is funny, no doubt about it. Gifford?
Daffy is the star of this episode for sure. I wrote down quite a few lines, and they're all his. I just love that, we see this music, we hear the music in the beginning, and it's all about rabbit season, and the rabbit is 150 yards ahead, and you're like, what is up with all these signs? Well, it's Daffy. He's promoting rabbit season because it's also duck season. So he's trying to save his own hide by throwing Bugs under the bus, which, of course, comes back to bite him in the end. Some of the great lines ever from any of these. Brad, you have got to have this one written down.
Can I say it?
I will let you say it as the English teacher.
Yes, Bugs is tricking him by changing the pronouns around, and he says, "That's it, pronoun trouble." Like he figures out how he got tricked. Pronoun trouble,
which is just as apt today. Which is just as apt today as it ever was.
Yeah. Sure, absolutely.
Timeless. These cartoons are timeless. So a couple other ones the other ones I love is when him and Bugs are down in the hole, and Bugs tells him to look up and see if Elmer's still there, and when he does, he gets shot, and he comes back down, and he's dazed and confused, and he says, "Yeah, he's still lurking about."
Those are the lines I wrote down, the exact same ones.
But the best one yet is when we finally got it all figured out that Elmer's gonna shoot the rabbit, and Daffy runs over to him and says, "Now's your chance, Hawkeye." He calls it Hawkeye. I just think that's so funny because obviously the guy can't shoot straight to save his life. Now's your chance, Hawkeye. It's so great. It's such a great little quick hitter, and I love it.
All right, so that's a classic. Number 30. Sorry, 30. Yeah. We got one left, God. And we're ending on another one that I know that Gifford and I shared a lot in common with on this one.
This is a banger.
Yes. Banger. Bully for Bugs from 1953. This is so memorable. This is one that I was always excited to see when it came on a Saturday morning, and then go talk to Gifford about it next time I saw him. Hey, did you watch Looney Tunes? Did you see the bullfight? So in this one, Bugs unwittingly ends up in a bullfight ring after a wrong turn. The classic wrong turn at Albuquerque.
In Albuquerque, yes.
He does get hit by a bull. And of course, this means war. And enter now
flying through the air.
The series of antics, as we always have, where he's going to play with and humiliate the bull. It's not going to be Elmer this time. It's not going to be Yosemite. It's not going to be the Tasmanian Devil. It's the bull this time. There's an anvil. There's a slingshot. But unlike some of the other ones, the bull gets in good licks on Bugs throughout. He does get his chance to fight back. So that's kind of what makes it fun. The final trap, though, where the bull is flying through the air from grease over a ramp onto glue, sandpaper, a match, an explosion, all in the air at once, is just absolutely fantastic. And of course, Bugs wins the fight on that because that one the bull cannot overcome. Right. So I said it started with he should have taken a left turn at Albuquerque, and this is one of my favorite lines. So you got the bullfighter in the ring, and he doesn't even realize he's surrounded by this huge crowd. Oh, I'll just ask this fella in the fancy knickerbockers. Hey, sir, could you direct me to the Coachella Valley Big Carrot Festival therein?
Oh my God! Yes, the fancy knickerbockers. So good.
There are so many lines by Bugs. I'll leave a couple more onto you guys now. What do you like about this one? I'll go Gifford first this time.
I do like that there is some back and forth here because the bull is just doing his thing. Like, he didn't do anything wrong to start with, and so that's why I think it's a little better that he does get some licks in throughout this. And of course, he lands the first big blow that starts this whole thing. But before all of this, even Bugs gets hit the first time, I love how he comes up behind Bugs and he's standing there. He's just pissed off. And Bugs turns around, slaps him across the face, and says, "Stop steaming up my tail."
That's the best line. That's the greatest.
It's just so great. I would not say that it's the best line. I think the best line is after he nails down his horns after going through that board, and he's got the "what a gullible, what a nincow poop."
What an imbecile.
That's the classic.
What an ultra maroon. Yeah, the gullible and the nincow poop are great, but I just love the way he says, "Steaming up my tail," and he doesn't care.
There's
no fear. Like, he's not afraid of him. Slaps him right across the face.
Yeah, like, how dare you?
I like the gag where the rifle gets all the way in his tail and he starts shooting.
Because then
shooting
that makes
out of his horns.
It gives the bull some chance.
Some leverage. Right. That's what you're not used to seeing against Bugs Bunny.
Right.
This is another one too that it's got good dialogue, great lines by Bugs, but it's also got great music again. And the music for Bugs is high.
When
the bull is going, it's low. And it has that contrast. I love the music when he's sharpening his horns on the sharpening wheel. and then when he swallows the gun and he shoots it out of the horns, like Pete said, that's a great thing. But I think of the underrated aspect, because there's so much great in this cartoon, is the color. There's so many colors in this. And I don't know if this is really subtle, but the black on the bull, to me, and Daffy too, they make the most deep black colors on these cartoons. Like, they're shiny. They shimmer and shine. And it's just so clear and deep. I love it. I mean, all the colors are great, but even the black is like, wow, that's really, really cool to look at.
That's a really good comment. It's not something you consciously think of, but you're right.
No. And Daffy's the same way. So it's not just in this one, but this particular cartoon was mostly made on a dare when one of the writers was told that there's nothing funny in bullfighting. And so he decided to write a cartoon about it.
Nice.
And actually, that's the same thing that led to the introduction of our favorite Pepe Le Pew as well. And that one was maybe made kind of on a dare as well.
I can see that.
About sexual harassment.
Yeah.
I'll show them.
Or suicide, for that matter.
I could see it as it was made on a dare after you lost a bet or something. Like, that's what you come up with. It's Pepe Le Pew.
All right. Any more comments or lines on the Bully for Bugs?
No, I'm good. But these were 10 wonderful entries. Really, really enjoyed watching them. As tough as they were to watch, because we had to watch them in 3 parts off of YouTube or something.
Yeah, tough not being because of the content. Tough meaning the
how we had to actually view them.
Accessibility of them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, I will say then, if I could run through, I mean, I had to narrow it down to 10, but here's a list of the ones that I would also love to do if we do another episode or something. Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century with Daffy, Porky again, and Marvin the Martian.
Yeah, Marvin the Martian.
That's one of the first ones I thought.
Can I just say on that one?
If you got something, throw it something in quick. Memory.
One of the greatest lines that Daffy's ever uttered is when he's in his rocket ready to blast off, and instead of going up, it goes shooting down into the ground, and he just looks at the camera and goes, "I had the silly thing in reverse."
I love that one.
Why? How fast and how hard it plummets into the ground is just the best.
Another one that I watched was Hair Raising Hair. This had that big red monster who wears only 10 shoes, and then the weird looking scientist.
Isn't that Gossamer?
Is that his name? I didn't remember.
I think it is.
But there's like a mad scientist.
Marvin the
like
Martian.
like a normal kind of almost looking person face, but he's like really creepy looking, the scientist. And
yeah, he was in a few different ones because he was also a pet of Marvin the Martian, and his name was Gossamer. Marvin's name
right.
for
That
him
sounds
was
right.
Gossamer.
Yep.
Well, speaking of that, I also had the one with oh god, the Yeti. What's the word?
Oh, yeah.
Why am
I don't
drawing
remember
an
his character's name.
blank
The
on
Abominable Snowman.
Yep. Thank you. Oh
Yes.
my god. The Abominable
think of his
Snowman who loves bugs and thinks he's like his pet and he will love
Oh
him.
yes, I will love
And
him and I
pet
will
him.
keep him and I will name him George.
One of my all-time favorites, another great music one, is Long-Haired Hair, which the title might not give it away, but this is the one where Bugs is living right up the hill from the opera singer, and he's playing his fiddle and he keeps bugging the opera singer who keeps coming up and destroying his instruments, and then eventually Bugs acts like this big maestro Figaro, and he comes in and he makes him like bust everything on stage. That is a great cartoon.
That is a top 5, in my opinion, cartoon. And the way at the end where his glove is held up and then he leaves and he goes, and the guy just keeps singing and it's like his face is getting purple and the whole band shell is collapsing around him. And I mean, that is, to me, that's a top 5 cartoon.
That was probably the hardest cut, really. I loved, it's called Don't Give Up the Sheep. I love Sam Sheepdog and the Wolf, which I always thought was Wile E. Coyote. His actual name is Ralph Wolf.
His name is Ralph.
And he's like his brother or something, but it's never really clear. But you're right, because he says, "Good morning, Ralph." I know, but I always, in my head, he looks exactly like Wile E. Coyote.
He's got a different colored nose. He's got a red nose versus Wile E. Coyote as a black nose.
Is that what it is?
You're right.
Okay.
And he gets, he gets treated just like Wile E. Coyote too. The sheepdog always wins. It's always funny.
Yep.
The Wile E. Coyote and Bugs one I picked was Operation Rabbit. We've already talked about them. A great classic. I think it's an older one. I didn't look at the year, but Baseball Bugs, where he plays the entire team.
Yes.
Oh God, obviously.
One of the first ones I thought of.
Yep.
Devil May Hair was where the Tasmanian Devil was introduced, and I love the Tasmanian Devil. Ali Baba Bunny. This is where Bugs and Daffy are traveling together, and they end up in a cave where there's a genie and a lamp and everything, and Daffy wants to steal all the gold. And it's the great contrast between the two of them. I love that. Birds Anonymous would have been the Tweety and Sylvester that we didn't get to. Actually, this is one that this is the number 2 overall cartoon of all time. Duck Amuck. This is the one where Daffy is caught in the cartoon that's being drawn. And at the end, you find out it's Bugs Bunny who's drawing the cartoon. And he keeps changing the scene on Daffy. Oh, God, Gifford, you know what that one is.
You can't quite figure out what's going on.
I'll have to look it up.
Duck Amuck.
Okay.
He changes this. Daffy will get into like his swimming suit because he's in a beach scene, and he'll keep walking, and then all of a sudden it'll be like a cold winter scene, and he'll be in skis, and he keeps just doing all kinds of stuff to him, and Daffy gets all upset, of course, because that's what he does, and at the end you find out it's Bugs who's doing the drawing. That's considered the number 2.
Oh yeah. I just saw a picture of it. Yes, I know this one.
Random characters that I love, their names are the Goofy Gophers, and I love it. It's called Lumberjerks, where they tear down their tree and then they go find their tree in the big sawmill, and they I love those two. They talk in that very formal language to each other, and they're these little cute gophers. And then I wanted Speedy Gonzales too, the Pied Piper of Guadalupe, but we didn't have room for that one. So those are the other ones I considered. It was really hard, and we could have watched every one of those. I did, in fact, but we all could have.
Right.
Can you guys think of any other ones that you would have wanted to possibly?
The one big one that I would have loved, you did mention Marvin the Martian.
Okay.
But yeah, that was the one that I had, and I had written down that it would have been nice to have a Sylvester and Tweety, just because that is a classic part of the core gang of Looney Tunes.
That was a hard cut because Sylvester is I love him, but they couldn't top the ones I picked. I didn't think so.
No.
Too bad.
I had one because we didn't have a Sylvester, so I thought about when he would come across the baby kangaroo as the massive mouse, and that was always that was in a few different ones. So like the other night I watched one where him and his son got taken upon a cruise ship as mousers.
Yes, I remember that.
And so he told his son, well, you're small, so you get all the small mice. And if any big ones come along, I'll take care of those. Well, of course, his son finds a crate with a baby kangaroo in it. And of course, that looks like a mouse. So Sylvester has to fight the mouse or the kangaroo. So those are always fun.
And actually, Sylvester is the other star in the Speedy Gonzalez ones usually too. So we could have, if I picked Speedy Gonzalez, we would have put Sylvester there too.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's close it out by drafting these characters. There are so many characters to choose from. I think we've named a lot we love.
Sometimes some of these that we do, it's hard to find like 15. So the last few are kind of a stretch. We could have done a draft of 20 and be just fine, probably.
I have 25 written down right now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, 30. I'm going first, followed by Gifford and Pete. And I mean, I can't have the number one pick and not take Bugs Bunny. So I'm taking Bugs Bunny. I do have another guy I would have liked to have taken, but Bugs is, he is just the best. So.
Well, he's the franchise.
I know. Well, but he's like Mickey Mouse is not my favorite Disney character, not even close.
Sure.
Like I wouldn't pick him, but Bugs is actually that good. He's
Bugs is way cooler than Mickey. I mean, let's be honest. So
okay, Gifford.
Well, I was happy to get the second pick because either way, I was either going to get Bugs Bunny or I was going to get Foghorn Leghorn.
Yeah.
So
and I was actually I knew I'd have the first pick because it's my episode, but I was almost disappointed because that meant I knew I wouldn't get Foghorn Leghorn.
I say I'll take Foghorn with the second overall pick. You're too low, son. The fast ones keep going over your head. Pete.
All right. God, there's so many good ones I can pick from. But I will go with Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah. I almost wrote it down before you picked it.
Oh. All right. Well, yeah, so do I pick the second best? I got to pick Daffy Duck, I think. Daffy Duck is, come on. Damn it. How many times did we talk about him tonight and quote him over and over?
Brad's already won the draft.
I thought I was gonna trip myself into that as my second pick. So unfortunately, I do not get Daffy.
That gonna get somebody really good. So.
Well, and I'm gonna take him right now. My firstborn son is named Sam for the reason of Yosemite. That's not true. But I'm gonna take Yosemite Sam.
And I feel like I should definitely win with my two, but I would be so happy if I had your two. Those are.
Oh, me too. Yeah, I would be completely happy if I had. Yeah, I was happy with my first pick. I'm happy with my second. I would have loved Daffy, but I'm gonna take Yosemite and be good to go there.
All right, I'm going with Pepe Le Pew.
Yep.
Damn it, I was hoping I'd get him.
That's the right choice.
Really came through in the clutch by watching this episode, and so I got to take him.
All right, well, if you're going to take him, then I guess I'm going to go with the Tasmanian Devil. I was between two different ones.
You were going to take that one.
Well, I was between two. Wanted to go a little bit. Because the other one I love, but he's got some where he's not as funny, and he's got some where he's great. So
Well, and I'm going to take him because he is in two of the greatest episodes ever. I'm going to go with Mr. Elmer Fudd.
Yeah, that was it. I should have picked him.
No, Tasmanian. Here's the thing. If you would have taken Elmer, I was taking Tasmanian Devil.
Well, I know, but I should have picked him because he probably was a better pick. But the Taz makes me laugh.
Yeah, Taz is great. And it's Haken, so you got to take him.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going with Marvin the Martian. I want to blow up the Earth because it's obstructing my view of Venus.
All right. Well, now we get to where it's a little trickier because they're all good, but not any that maybe stand out as an obvious pick. I'm going to go with So do I go with the one who's considered? No, I'll take Sylvester.
Okay. That's the right choice, in my opinion.
Oh, thank you. It's the right choice.
Yep.
And I think, yeah, if I would have taken Elmer Fudd, I would have probably had, like 4 big ones right there. But I'm okay with that.
All right. I'm going to go off the board here. Pretty sure I brought him up in our last draft that we did with Children of the 80s. I'm going with Chester the Terrier. He's the one who goes around with his buddy, but he's the little dog who's always up for anything. I always found him funny.
Right?
What's that?
Wouldn't that usually be in a Sylvester cartoon?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
He'd be in a Sylvester cartoon. I should look up and see who his partner in crime was. The big dog.
That big gray dog, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Pete, number 4.
Well, I'm going south of the border. I'm going to take Speedy Gonzalez.
That's who I almost picked, and I picked Sylvester instead. So you got Speedy Gonzalez and Pepe Le Pew. I guess we'll find out if people are going to be PC with this vote or not.
Pete is very international.
Yeah, I just think globally. I'm international. I think globally.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, not only globally, but outside the planet itself. You're on Mars as well. Yeah.
So I'm going to take for my last pick. I mean, again, these are too much the same. I'll go with. I'm going to go with Sam Sheepdog. Yeah. I really like those. And I like how cool he is. He's kind of a Bugs Bunny version of just this cool guy that always gets things to work out right.
What I love about those is that leading up to, like, when they're off work, he's useless. He's kind of falling all over himself. He can't see because his hair is over his eyes. Yep. And then as soon as the whistle blows and he's on the clock, like, he's deadly. Like, he is right on top of everything, can see everything.
That's right.
All right. So I'm going to take this one just based on his Friar Tuck impersonation. I'm going to go Porky Pig. He's a mainstay in the Looney Tunes. Ba-deep, ba-deep, ba-deep. That's all, folks, for my pick.
And that's true. He's not my favorite, but he's got some classics. No. He probably would have been a good pick to close it out there.
Mm-hmm.
He goes back about as far as anybody.
Right.
I got a sleeper pick for my last one. It's actually a pair that are always together. If you want me to take just one of them, I can. But I'm thinking of Rocky and Muggsy, the gangsters, with the hats. The one is the big one. The one is a big dumb guy, and the other one's just a short.
Yeah, I can picture that.
Those are funny. So if I'm going to go with Rocky,
tall hat
if you have to.
And...
Yeah, the way they talk.
All right, so here are my others. So I had mentioned the Goofy Gophers. I love those too. I think they're hilarious. Mm-hmm. Nobody picked a Tweety Bird. Abominable Snowman. Nobody picked Roadrunner. I mean, that would have been a good one to pick. Ralph Wolf. In the Sylvester cartoons, you got to love Granny. I mean, she'll just beat the crap out of you. She doesn't take shit.
Yes, she is funny.
In the
she doesn't take shit.
Foghorn Leghorn, you got Barnyard Dog. That's the name of the dog that he's always pummeling that I love. Michigan J. Frog, I almost picked him because he's kind of iconic. Not only Speedy Gonzalez, but then you got Slowpoke Rodriguez.
Yes.
I'm not going down that road.
The chicken in Foghorn and Leghorn is Miss Prissy. I like her.
Mm-hmm.
And then her kid, or the other little, is Egghead Jr. also. Sometimes, like, there's one where Foghorn and Leghorn's trying to teach him how to play ball because he's trying to impress Miss Prissy. And then my last one, this is a deep cut, and I don't know if this was only a one-time deal, but Angus McRory, the Scottish golfer that Bugs plays golf against. Love that guy.
Yeah.
So, who have I missed? Anybody?
I've got.
Go ahead.
Oh, I got Black Jacques Chirac. He's a great one.
Yes.
Who's that? I recognize the name.
He's a like a pirate guy.
It's Bugs Bunny that's fighting him, right? It's
Bugs
one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And then we also have Nasty Canasty, who's in the westerns that Bugs runs into on occasion. The other one I had, I liked Henry Hawk. from the one we watched for tonight. He's always just full of piss and vinegar. And then the last one I have, there were 3 of them. There were 3 bears, but Junior Bear, I really enjoyed. He's this big, hulking, still wears a diper, but he's just such an idiot. But he's got such a good heart. Right, yeah. So I like Junior Bear as well.
Pete, any left?
The one that I can find that hasn't been mentioned was Witch Hazel. Remember her? She was the witch.
She had Hansel and Gretel one.
Yeah.
Got the giant wart on her big nose. And...
Right.
Yep.
Right. Like every single stereotype possible, they always accentuate to the max. That's what's funny about it. I think that's it.
That was a lot of them. All right. Well, that was a lot of fun. I could go watch a lot more of those. Right. Put in my DVDs maybe.
Well, and we talked tonight about some stereotypes and maybe some things that didn't go over well in nowadays. But what do we have coming up next week?
Pete?
Oh! Speaking of stereotypes,
the guy who picked Speeding Gonzalez and Pepe Le Pew, he also picked.
Yes, we are going with Dukes of Hazzard.
That's right.
Yes.
Looking forward to it. It's not going to be one with Vance and Coy. I made sure of that. It's the one before.
Thank you.
Vance and Coy came on, so looking forward to that.
So we're assuming that Jason Gilling's going to love that upcoming episode, and we'll tune in for sure for that one.
And it's a staple of our childhood, and it maybe didn't age well, but I don't know the last time you guys watched it. I guess we'll see what it's like when we watch it again, and just what's going on there, because it's been many, many, many years since I've seen an episode.
Many years.
Yes.
Right.
See how it how it ages. Hey Gifford, what's your favorite square dancing band?
Great caller and great band for square dancing is Preacher Row.
I'm a Nate across the floor.
That's right. Whirl, twist, and twirl.
All right. You got to say it, Giff?
Ba-deep. That's all, folks.
But thanks for listening if you made it this far. We'll see you next week.
All right.
I'm scared, but there's nothing I can do.